Welcome to my next presentation on how the self-destructive nature of democracy can be used to demolish the democratic state structure. Hello, my name is Jean-Marc Kania, and today's presentation I will start with saying a few words on the world-famous Gdańsk shipyard, the place in which the process of destroying the communist regime in Eastern Europe began in 1989. Since that time, Poland and other post-communist countries have done an enormous work to establish the democratic state structures and to join the European Union. Now, 30 years later, Poles, like Hungarians, manipulated by politicians, are destroying what they have achieved going back to the authoritarian regime, but this time led by ultra-religious and extremely right-wing people. In this video, I will show you on the basis of the current political situation in Poland how the direct majority voting rule can be used to transform democracy into a dictatorship of one party, destroying the basic values of democracy. At the end, I will briefly introduce a unique pioneering concept of constituting the liberal capitalist democratic state structure called thus democracy, the system in which demagogues, fanatics, the potential dictators and the like subverters whose main objective is to take over the whole power in the country are not allowed to take seats in the government. So let's start this presentation about how the self-destructive nature of democracy can be used to demolish the democratic state structure. It doesn't matter which country we come from, democracy can come to an end if we elect the wrong people to govern the state. The consequences could be disastrous and tragic not only for the nation ruled by the dictator, but for the whole world, as in the case of Hitler or Mussolini, the most popular killers of democracy, who used the direct democratic rule to come to the autocratic power. So we should stay alert all the time to protect our democracies from falling. Of course, I am not even trying to compare the political situation of any democratic country with classic fascism, giving Poland as an example of falling democracy. I want to only indicate some inadequacies of political parliamentary democracies which might lead to their self-destruction. The recent presidential elections in Poland have shown that approximately half of the voters are the committed proponents of the liberal capitalist state as a part of the European Union, and the other part wants Poland to be independent on the European Union and governed by the people whose ideology is based on extremely radical nationalism and ultra-Catholicism. At least now, the Polish people do not need to look for enemies in Russia or Germany to explain own failures, as they have been doing for centuries. Poles themselves are becoming fierce enemies to each other, splitting into the supporters and the opponents of the liberal democracy. Unfortunately, the presidential race of 2020 won the then sitting president Andrzej Duda from the extreme right-wing Law and Justice Party PiS, which rules currently Poland, and all this thanks to the combined efforts of the influential Polish Catholic Church, the far-right government, as well as the state and the commercial pro-government media. Whereas the campaign based on the anti-democratic, extremely nationalist, homophobic, xenophobic and anti-Semitic ideology, hostile to LGBT people and directed against abortion and euthanasia, full of hatred and empty promises, hit and satisfied the tastes mainly of peasants, laborers and elders. Ultimately, Mr. Duda will continue his presidential term for the next 5 years thanks to the naive voters vulnerable to the ostentatious far-right rhetoric and propaganda. The bribe voters voters who fall easily for the empty promises of politicians, the voters thanks to whom democracy in Poland is in the grave danger and Pole exit from European Union is becoming increasingly real. The specific presidential campaign in Poland based on the hate speech, along with the hostile policy of the ruling party PiS, which constantly attacks opponents to mobilize on electorate, has resulted in dividing Poles and in increasing the degree of aggressiveness in the society, especially among low-educated people with brains washed both by the church and the right-wing government. One of the reasons of such the situation in Poland, as in any other democracy, is increasingly growing economic inequality, which stimulates conflicts of interest and frustrations among the society. And this has a magic power to weaken even the centuries-old democracies or the more emerging ones, like for example the Polish, giving a great opportunity for people with the dictatorial tendencies to rise. It looks that Poles have lost what they have fought for in 1989, toppling the communist rule. Will they finally accept the dictatorship of the right-wing government, or will they fight for freedom and tolerance as they have often done in the past? The future will give us the answer. Fortunately, everything flows and nothing remains the same. Pantarei, as Heraclitus of Ephesus used to say, consciousness thanks to which we are aware of our thought process occurring in our brain and the events taking place around us is no exception. Consequently, the human nature changes in time, and along with it, our principles and creed. What used to be taboo tomorrow might become an object of mockery and jokes. We all agree that changes in the contemporary democratic state structures cannot be avoided. Sooner or later they will happen. The only question is how? By the public protest? I don't think so, since they have so far shown to be ineffective strategies for social movements quickly being forgotten and ignored by just about everyone. To change our socio-economic reality for the better, there is nothing left as only conducting a well-organized global socio-economic revolution, but under the democratic norms, because only in this way we can peacefully make the radical system changes for a long time. To achieve the intended objectives, all it takes is to create a vast electoral majority capable of making changes for and on behalf of the entire society. So everything depends on us. When we become an incorruptible, rationally thinking majority, then making the socio-economic changes that would positively affect our life and would lead to democratic rule of law and modern market-oriented and knowledge-based economy will become possible, especially since we already have a universal and easy-to-use tool called D.E.S, democracy, which is the stable and ideologically independent system of ruling the country, eliminating the main sources of paradoxes and pathologies of the contemporary democracies. That means eliminating the direct majority rule in the way in which it is used today, as well as politicians, the worst subverters of democracy, who pose a real threat to the national security and the public safety. The principles of this democracy constitute the permanent and strong pillars to form the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, with their consent and under their control. In other words, the government which is open, transparent, accountable and innovative in all its operations, activities and decision-making processes. The government which is committed to developing a strong civil society and knowledge-based economies and societies, guarantees that distributive justice, fosters development of free market economies, consolidates stability and prosperity, eliminates poverty, empowers citizens through, for example, facilitating and promoting the public public participation in the process of public policy and law making, respects and recognizes the principle of popular sovereignty, which gives the people the ultimate power about the government authority. Furthermore, this government upholds and respects the principle of justice over the law, the human rights, as well as the principle of equality and non-discrimination, enforces and protects non-infringement and property rights. According to the D.E.S. ban prevents from enacting and implementing the laws which are mutually contradictory or injurious to the public. Under the D.E.S. Decalogue, this government prohibits promotion of theocracy and creation of laws based on religious doctrines, as well as puts a ban on granting any privileges to religious establishments as well as individuals due to their religious beliefs. The very strong pillar of this democracy is the right to impeach everyone holding a public office, charged of misconduct, treason, bribery, blackmail, or anything that would abuse the power of the public office, of course after proving the guilt of the accused official. In this, all laws and regulations must comply with the D.E.S. Constitution, which is derived from the principles of the philosophy of the value of being. Of course, I realize this presentation is not enough exhaustive, but I hope it will at least provoke you to a more insightful look at the socio-economic situation of the country where you live in. If you represent a university, public or government institution, political party, association, foundation, or a company, and you are interested in consulting or organizing a seminar on this democracy or related problems, please feel free to contact me through email des.democracy@gmail.com. Sorry, this offer is not available for private individuals. Instead, I am inviting everyone to read my books, the Polish editions, The Point and the Prior applications, in which you will find a detailed description of this democracy. Thank you for watching my presentation. I look forward to hearing from you. Goodbye.